How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. It's our Week 13 NFL preview. Here with me, my good friend, Mr. Mike Zappi.
How's it going, Richie, man? I'm excited about today's episode, to be honest with you. I mean, lots to talk about. We got the return of a certain player that's definitely going to catch some headlines, so I'm ready to get to it.
Yeah, looking at this slate of games, potentially this could be the best week of the NFL season. It starts tomorrow, Thursday Night Football. We've got the Buffalo Bills renewing their rivalry with the New England Patriots in Gillette Stadium. This is going to be the Bills' first game this year without Von Miller. And the Patriots, very much, even in fourth place, still in the wild card hunt in the AFC East. Um, what are your thoughts on this? How do you see this playing out?
Well, you know, I think this is going to be a very interesting game because we're talking about Buffalo that is now trying to keep pace with Miami, although Miami has a little bit of a bump this week as well. I like this game, but I honestly don't think it's going to be a similar game to what we saw the first time they played when the Patriots passed the ball twice due to weather and just out the Bills got out coached and outran. And obviously we know how the second game went, but more importantly the third game. And the other thing to remember about last year's games, the victorious teams were the road teams. But going into this week's game, I think I don't want to call it the breaking point for the Patriots, but I call it more the breaking point for the Bills, to be honest with you. If they fall two games behind the Kansas City Chiefs and then fall one game behind Miami, if Miami pulls it off and you have the Jets breathing down their neck, I've got Buffalo. I can't see in any world right now where Buffalo's going to be struggling, but I think it will be a close game. I've got it 27-17 with a late touchdown by Buffalo to make it a 10-point victory.
Yeah, I'm thinking like-minded here. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Bills are 8-4, correct, or are they 7-4?
They're 8-4.
I thought so. I don't know where I got 8-5 from. Sorry about that.
Remember,
Um,
week 13, so everyone's has at least 12 games done.
yeah, I like the Bills also by 10. I'm going 27-17. I think I think we're going to see a game where the Patriots could potentially be leading at halftime. Second half, I'm calling on the Bills to actually shut them out.
Eight
Not
and
even
th-
joke.
8-3.
Yeah, what am I doing here?
I remembered they already had their bye.
I gave them two extra losses.
Maybe you
I'm,
see
pen-
something
I'm
we ought to stop.
penalizing. I'm penalizing them for not winning the way that most have become accustomed to. Yeah, biggest reason I like the Bills here. It's still the quarterback situation with New England. I just don't feel that confident in Mac Jones. I keep alluding to it. The Jets have already made their change. I don't think the Patriots really know which way to go. They're trying to make it work with Mac. Um, Bailey Zappi, in my opinion, played better than him, but he's not starting.
Which is interesting that you're mentioning that because we could see a sinking ship in New England, or maybe they get it back on track. But then now the talks that came out today about the possibility of Tom Brady returning to New England next year. So it's like, is Belichick going to put another to Mac Jones, see what happens, and then go back to Zappy, try to figure this out, and then prepare for an offseason where they're going to try to get Tom Brady back for one more run? There's just a lot to think about. But as far as this game, I mean, yeah, Patriots, I think they got to go back to Zappy. Although Mac has had his one game against the Vikings, Zappy brought that extra. He wasn't scared to make the throw type of guy.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it too. And Tom Brady going back to New England again would just be all kinds of weird. He'll be the first quarterback to collect Social Security while still playing in the league. That's all I got there. Buffalo by 10. Uh, this game, the only reason we're speaking about this game is because of one player, that being Deshaun Watson, making his first start since the 2020 season. His name has been marred in all kinds of accusations. Some of it you know, it's just bizarre. I think the best way to put that whole situation is bizarre. I recently read that some of the accusers are actually going to be in attendance at this game. I don't even know how I feel about that. That's pretty wild. But it's going to be quite the scene at this. You know, the Texans, it seemed like all his troubles started once he made it clear that he did not want to be in Houston anymore. And I am not insinuating anything past that. I just think that all of it was just bizarre. I think that's the best way to put it. The Texans are currently in position to get the very first pick in next year's draft. The Browns, this could be the beginning of what this is almost like their first preseason with Deshaun Watson. I view the final stretch of the season as his preseason going into next year. Next year, things are going to be a lot better for them. You know, Deshaun Watson in 2020 was a top four quarterback, top five quarterback. So, as far as the game, I could never pick the Texans, given how horrific they have played. Um, I'm going to go Browns 27, Texans 13.
Yeah, I think this game is very interesting because of the simple fact that we're talking about Deshaun Watson. We're not talking about the game. It's Deshaun Watson we're really talking about. And once he had made it clear, like you said, that he wanted to leave the Texans, it seemed like that's when everything started. And then now you have this weekend's game where you're going to have 10 of the accusers there. This is going to turn into a very mental game for Deshaun Watson and how he's able to overcome all that. Because when you have 10 accusers there, you're going to have thousands of fans saying whatever they're going to say to him.
Yes,
you
yes.
know, and
It's not a coincidence that this is his first game back.
yeah, and that's the other part. We talked about this when the season started about all our coincidental games of the year, and to put this one in there as well. But it's just I by no means think the Texans will win this game either. I think the Browns are a better team than their 4-7 record. But for me, this game is how is Deshaun going to react? Is he going to be that Deshaun Watson we saw for a brief moment during the preseason where he looked completely out of sync, or is he going to be able to roll with this offense and get Amari Cooper going early as well as rely on Nick Chubb? So I could see the latter where he has an immediate connection with Amari Cooper, and because Cooper is kind of receiver he likes to throw to.
I have a
So
feeling he's going to have a huge game.
that's what I think as well. I think this is a huge game for many reasons. But enough of this one. Like we said, we know this game. We're talking about it because it's just Deshaun Watson. We know about what happened in the offseason or over the last 2 years since everything started. I don't know how I feel about it yet. But, it is what it is. I have the Browns winning. I have the Browns winning pretty handily, 27-13.
The New York Jets, the third place New York Jets at 7-4, looking to ascend even further up the ladder in the AFC East, playing a team that I've been accusing for the better part of a month, the Minnesota Vikings, as paper tigers. The North is sewed up. Not buying this team though deep into the playoffs. Jets are going to win this game. I like the Jets in this, and I also think that Sauce Gardner is going to get the better of the Justin Jefferson matchup. That is going to be worth watching. I think the Jets defense and the Jets run game is going to be able to carry them to victory here. I think Mike White will do enough to win. I'm going Jets 27, Vikings 24.
So this is definitely, I think, going to be a little bit of a different game for Mike White. I did hit on how the one thing about him is his inconsistent play, and we hear where he would blow up for one game and then have a bad game. He did just come off of picking off the Bears. They don't necessarily have a pass rush after they traded their two best players, so on and so forth. The Vikings, I'm there with you. The two best teams they've played so far, they lost to. And then you have a New York Jets team that is defensively playing out of their minds. and they have the defense to slow down a Dalvin Cook or slow down Justin Jefferson because Sauce, I mean, not calling him Revis Island or Sauce Island, but he's almost at the point where he can cover half the field. And
Yeah,
when you can cover half the field against Justin Jefferson, that's saying a lot. And then we already saw how Trayvon held Jefferson to 2 catches. So, but yeah, I just think the Jets right now are playing better football. I think Mike White will do enough. And I think we're going to see the Vikings lose their third game, which is going to become important because obviously the Niners did have a tough time winning, but that's opening the door for another team to jump them.
yes, yes, and the Niners very much so have a chance to jump them, especially if they lose this week. The
So I'm
North,
taking the Jets. I'm sorry.
yeah, the North is sewed, but yeah,
Yeah,
Minnesota's definitely in danger of losing the 2 seed if they sputter.
yeah, and last thing, Jets. I actually have a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be more of a defensive battle. 20-17 Jets.
Battle of the 7 and the 6 seeds currently in the NFC. This is their first meeting of the season, but for the Commanders, they will be playing the Giants 2 consecutive games for them because they have a bye in between this, whereas the Giants will play them, Philly, and then them again. Giants could potentially be getting back 10 players for this game, but 3 in particular: Azeez Ojulari, Daniel Bellinger, also likely to return this week, and Evan Neal. Those 3 are huge. I love the idea of Bellinger coming back. I think that he's also going to help in the passing game as well as in the blocking game. And the Giants desperately need Evan Neal and Ojulari back. Ojulari set a Giant rookie record last year in sacks. This year has only played 2 games. His absence has been sorely missed over the better part of the last month. It's been a little more obvious that of his absence. And Evan Neal was having a very good rookie campaign prior to the injury. So obviously for the Giants to have a chance of winning this game, they need all the healthy bodies they can get. The Commanders playing much better ball under the watch of Taylor Heinicke. Last week went down to the wire, a game that I thought they were going to lose. We spoke on that recently about the Falcons' ineptitude in the red zone. What I see from the Commanders that I really like is the way they've been activating Brian Robinson into the offensive attack. I definitely like what the Commanders have done lately. As far as the game goes, I think the Giants get back on track here. I think it's going to be very tough. 23-20 victory in favor of the home team. Giants will be wearing their 86 throwbacks for this game, which is kind of cool. They're also going to paint the end zones similarly to how they looked during the 1980s. So legacy game is what they're calling it. They're going to be wearing their throwbacks. And they have won their first game in those throwbacks earlier in the year against the Chicago Bears. 2017 Giants. And the reason why I think the Giants win this game is because I think that they're going to be able to bottle up the Washington run game, force Heinicke to throw a little more in a third and not so favorable. I still think Terry McLaurin is going to have at least one legitimate big play in this. I will say that.
So this is actually one of the games I was really excited about for this week. Obviously, there's a lot of playoff implications, NFC East implications. So, I think this game is very important for the Commanders, but I think it's an even more important game for the Giants.
Yes, I agree.
Without question, because you look at the 2 teams over the last 4 or 5 weeks, you have one team that is going up and has been winning their games by playing great defense, running the ball, and making the 1 or 2 big plays offensively throughout the game, and that's the Commanders. And where you have the other team where the Giants, I mean, just the last 3 weeks, 3 losses in a row. Is it 3 losses or? Yeah, 3 losses in a row.
Not 3 in a row. 3 of our last 4.
3 of last 4. Okay,
and there was a bye week mixed in there too.
Right, that's right. So you take that into consideration, and just at one point the Giants were it was that the Giants team that everyone was like, all right, they're just overplaying, and then now we're seeing the team that a lot of people believe. I just don't know if with all the players returning for the Giants, if it's enough. Washington is also getting players back. I think I saw something where there's going to be 13 or 15 players coming back between both teams this week. So that goes to show about how both are hurting. But going back to the actual game, I just think that the Commanders are playing much better football right now. They are playing, like I said, phenomenal defense, and I think that defense is going to give um, Mr. Daniel Jones some issues. I really do. And Chase Young's back in the lineup. That's a big one. And then when we talk about last week's game, we did hit on how Arthur Smith, what was he thinking about? But that Washington Commanders defense showed you they are willing to go to the end, and their defense will win that game. And even if Mariota would have threw the ball just a little higher, it didn't matter. So, anyways, I think because of this current situation, the way both teams are trending, that the Commanders are going to come out victorious. I actually had the similar score as you, just the other way around. Commanders 23, Giants 20.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I I I do believe that the Giants are a lot more like the team that was 6-1. I really do believe that over the course of the last few weeks, it has been the injuries. That's why I am very excited about getting some of these guys back. But we'll see. Um, Either way, everybody's expecting it to be close. Uh, this is going to be an interesting one here. I find this to be a very big test for the Philadelphia Eagles because this is a premier running back that they're going to have to stop in Derrick Henry. Point blank simple. They got to stop him. If they stop him, essentially they're going to win this game. They limit him to under 80 yards. They're going to win this game. Will they? No, I don't think so. I think Derrick Henry's going to have a quality game. I called for a shootout last week in the Titan game. I was wrong. This is the week where we're going to get that shootout. I like Philly by 3, but I think the Titans are going to give them all they can handle. I got Philly winning this 30-27, and I believe that AJ Brown is going to go off in this one. I believe that it's a little personal here. And at home, I liked them. If this game was in Tennessee, maybe not. At home, I liked them.
This so you have Philly winning?
I have Philly winning by 3. I think Derrick Henry's going to have his signature
Okay.
100-yard game, a touchdown. I just think Philly's going to outlast them, and in the fourth quarter, I think that's where their offense is going to be working. And Tennessee does have a bit of a suspect secondary, and that would be a concern of mine. Philly does have the best offensive line in the league, too. That also goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, obviously. But the one thing is, Philly, as of late, has not really been proving enough to me. And Tennessee has to an extent. Last week, they got stopped. It was more of a game I thought, but I thought they were going to come out victorious. They didn't. They lost to the Jamar Chase less and Joe Mixon less Cincinnati Bengals. But either way, it's a new week, and you're going up against an Eagles defense that has been very susceptible to the run. Very, and they should have. I mean, to get in a shootout with the Packers because the Packers were relying a lot on the run game.
Yeah.
It's like that's exactly it. It has formula for a Tennessee Titan type of football game. Run the ball. They're going to use as much clock as they can. And then the other cool thing about this game that I like is, like you said, AJ Brown playing his former team, Traylon Burks playing against the guy that he replaced. So there's that's going into it. And I agree with you. I think the Tennessee Titans defense is they're very susceptible to the pass. So if they get into any type of shootout, they're done. They just don't have the offense to do it. Philly's goal is going to be to get off quick and early, eliminate the running game altogether. Titans' goal is going to be to slow the game down, rely heavily on Henry. I have Philly losing one of the next 3 weeks. I think it's next week and not this week. I have Philly winning it. They get to 24, Titans 20.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see here early on, Titans will put points on the board, gradual, slower drives. As far as the Eagles go, I think they're going to score rather quickly early on. I think that's going to be kind of like the contrast. Then at some point, I think both teams are going to rely on the running game. If I had to take a bet on which team is going to stop which team in that regard, I actually do think the Eagles are going to step up and take some pride. Sometimes when you have hone in on a premier talent, that's where guys start to rally and wake up. And I think this is that kind of game for the Eagles. I think Henry has a huge first half. Second half, I think he might get phased out.
They need to, because while they have a comfortable lead in the division as well as the NFC, that run defense is not the run defense that you take into the playoffs.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
know, so this is like, yes, this is that type of game where you would expect the run defense to step up. You went out and signed the Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh within I don't know how many hours of each other to stop the run game, and it's looked worse.
Yeah.
So this Eagle team is, I don't want to say they're on the verge of imploding, but if they're susceptible to the run that bad, perfect example for you would be 2018, the Dallas Cowboys. We were susceptible to the run. We had a good offense, and what happened? We went to LA in the divisional round, and we lost because the Rams ran for 250 plus yards on us with CJ
Mhm.
Anderson and Todd Gurley. So, yeah, man, I just think Philly needs to wake up defensively. I don't know if they're going to stop the run. Believe me, I hope that the Titans pull this off, but yeah, Philly.
Yeah, Philly this week. Uh, this next one looks like we could have fun with this. What is going on here? Had it on ticker, whatever that means. Let me get off of here first. Let me go here now. There we go.
I like that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just realized that apparently I put the ticker option on that, but I kind of like it better than we're gonna start rolling with the ticker a little more frequently.
Especially if we do a live game one day.
Well, what I like about this is that we can talk about them, and the viewer can read at their own pace because it's coming back around. Zappy,
Okay.
go ahead. Your thoughts on this? We got the
This
Miami
is
Dolphins visiting the Niners.
this is a very interesting game in my opinion. For one, the Niners, they lost Elijah Mitchell for quite some time. McCaffrey, he missed practice today. His status is still up in the air. And then you look at Miami, Tua did take that nasty bend of a hit that he missed the last 5 offensive series last week. Obviously, he's fine, but we still know or think that he's still susceptible to that one hit, and insert Nick Bosa. 49ers, last week they struggled. It surprised me a lot that they barely won the game 13-0, and they got lucky to walk out of there victorious because there was that pick six that got called back, and then there was also a stand that took place.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be a fun game, actually. I think this is going to be one of the hardest tests for the 49ers offense, or I'm sorry, their defense. And I think this 49er offense, it's going to be interesting to see what they look like if they're relying heavily on a Jordan Mason and his rookie counterpart with Elijah Mitchell out and Christian McCaffrey possibly out. So ultimately, the 49ers are playing such great football right now, especially defensively. Miami has been undefeated with the exception of the game that he got hurt early with Tua as the starter. I got to say that San Francisco's going to pull this one off. I think they're going to win this one 30-27. I think there's going to be more points scored, actually.
I'm going the opposite way on this. I like the Dolphins 30-24 on the road. I think they're going to be able to stretch the 49ers out. I think they're going to be able to run the ball when they have to. And I also think that their head coach feels very comfortable against this particular coach against this particular team, given his history there. Yeah, I think this is the game where the Dolphins really show people that this is not just some aberration because Josh Allen got hurt and there's other variables here. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game. I really do. I like
You
them
know,
here.
I like what you brought up. I find that interesting too because we're talking about Kyle Shanahan and D'Amico Ryans that worked with Mike McDaniel,
Yeah.
and Mike McDaniel learned a lot from Kyle. So, is it going to be one of those where when we see a Belichick playing one of his former head coaches where it's always the same result? Or is Mike McDaniel going to be able to outcoach one of the best offensive geniuses in the NFL? I mean,
I noticed that there's a recent trend that the pupil does better in usually the immediate matchup, the first matchup. I like Miami for that reason alone. Even if you look at Belichick versus some of his guys, if you're going to get Belichick as a former disciple of his, usually it's the first matchup. Not saying that pertains to this, but it has been a trend I've noticed. Like the Dolphins, it's going to be a good game. Could be the best game of the week. We've got a rematch of the AFC Championship of last year. The venue's different. Last year, that game took place in KC. I want to call it Arrowhead so bad, but they call it something else now, and it's terrible. They'll be traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Two first-place teams, but the Ravens currently have the tie over the Bengals. That's going to probably be sorted out going down the wire to week 18,
18, yeah.
which is in Baltimore. As the game goes, I like the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to get this. I think this is a game where the Bengals offense is going to be on full display. They're getting Jamar Chase back. Couldn't ask for a better week to get him back. Yeah, I do like the Bengals here. I'm going Cincinnati 27, Chiefs 24. I like the Bengals by 3 late. I'm going to go Shooter McPherson for a game-winning field goal.
I like it. I like it a lot. I actually also had the Bengals coming out victorious in this game because of one of the reasons that you named. That Week 18 matchup, though, is actually going to be in Cincinnati because when Cincinnati went to Baltimore this year, Baltimore pulled that one off.
Yeah, they pulled it off late. And that was one of those where they were already hearing the whispers about the blown games because they had blown one to Miami and the Giants at the time.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. And, fast forward to today, we saw it again last week. Anyways, back to this game. I like the Chiefs. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, but I think this is one of those games that they're going to lose just simply because it seems like Cincinnati has had their number the last couple of times they've played, and I'm expecting Jamar Chase just to come out there and show the NFL how much they missed him exactly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think this is a game where he's going to thrive given the immediate history, the not so distant history that he has against this Chiefs team. And the funny thing, too, is when you track back that AFC title game, it all happened in the second half because in the first half, the Bengals were pretty much shut down. They were down. Only had
21-3, I think, was it?
21-3, yeah. It was an 18-point deficit. The biggest comeback in AFC title game history since Peyton Manning's Colts did it to Tom Brady's Patriots back in the 06 season. So, yeah, a lot of history there. And this is a budding rivalry, too, between Burrow and Mahomes. Of course, you got Allen and Mahomes. It's that new era of quarterbacks that are going to be around for a very long time. We're taking it to Big D. The 4-7-1 Indianapolis Colts, now led by Jeff Saturday. This will be his fourth head coaching game, coming in 1-2. Cowboys currently are second in the NFC East, and they hold the 5 seed at the moment. This is Sunday Night Football. Should be a good one. I like Dallas starting slow, but I think once that third quarter starts is where they're going to separate themselves from this Colts team. I would not be the least bit surprised if Dallas comes out a little flat early on. Colts do have a pretty good defense, but I think by the time the third quarter rolls around, I think attrition is going to start setting in against the Colts. Their defense may get frustrated because their offense is not going to be able to back up what the defense is doing, putting them in plus territory often. And I think Dallas takes advantage. Dallas has a more rounded offense. Both of these teams have quality defenses, but Dallas gets the win because of the better offense. And I got Dallas winning by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go 31-17 Cowboys.
This game, to me, oh man, I can't believe I'm going to say the things I'm about to say. I've liked the Colts. I've liked their defense. Obviously, they've had some injuries here and there. They did bring in Jeff Saturday, surprisingly. He's 1-2, like you said. But there's more to this game for the Dallas Cowboys. This is the next day. Who's going to be visiting?
Yeah.
It's OBJ, who apparently OBJ has stated, which we all know, he wants a long-term deal, and Jerry has said we are willing to do the long-term deal. So I'm thinking a 3-year deal is in place for OBJ, and I think in the range of 20 to 22 million per. But we'll see. But this is, you want to, think about colleges when they're recruiting, they have the players come into their stadium to go watch that big game, Well, how convenient that this game is on Sunday Night Football for whatever airplane Jay is sitting on or whatever home he's at. I think he's going to watch this Cowboys offense blow up. Every year they have that one game that they just blow up, and this feels like this is the one. And so I'm going with a big one. I normally don't do this, this for a fact, but I just think that this is the one game Dallas comes out exploding offensively. Defensively, I'm expecting them to get 2 turnovers for touchdowns, one by fumble, the other one by interception by Trayvon. Dallas 42-10.
Yeah, I don't see that happen. We'll see. I think they already did that with the Minnesota game, but we'll see. The less notables around the league, these are my honest opinions. The home teams are capitalized. If there's anything that really stands out to you here, I would say of these, personally, my favorite one to speak on, my only one that I wanted to speak on out of these, Raiders-Chargers. I think it's the perfect recipe for the Chargers to shoot themselves in the foot, which would be the first real step in assuring that they're going to miss the playoffs this year. And I think the Raiders are the right team to do it right now. The Raiders are feeling kind of good about themselves, winning a shootout against the Seattle Seahawks on the road. And this is going to be a similar kind of game. But I do like the Raiders, given the fact that Josh Jacobs is currently, this very moment, the hottest running back in the NFL. And I don't think the Chargers have the healthy bodies to stop it. It'll be close because the Raiders have their fair share of issues on defense. But in the end, I like the Raiders by a point. I think they edge them out. And I think they get a small measure of revenge for just having a crappy year.
So I've got 86 reasons why the Raiders are feeling really good about themselves this week, after that incredible run by Jacobs. I like the Raiders in this game too. The Chargers to me right now just don't seem like they're the Chargers we were expecting.
They don't come off to me as a team that's hungry.
They don't. That's the perfect way to put it. They don't come off as that team whatsoever. Where right now it looks like the Raiders are hungry, and what's crazy is they're not exactly out of the playoff picture.
I think the Raiders are just pissed.
Yeah, pissed too, and they should be, because this is a team that a lot of people predicted to be an 11-win team this year.
They were a playoff team last year, and a lot of people feel that if the referees didn't make a couple of boo-boos in that game, they might have beat Cincinnati last year. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. A lot of things people think, but I mean, if everybody's at full strength, I like the Chargers, no problem. I just think that the Chargers have lost so many important pieces this year. And then the other part of it, as I already stated, they just don't strike me as a hungry team. And I think that the 2 games they lost to Kansas City, I think mentally did something to them.
And not only that, But while it's at LA,
Yeah,
there's going to be so many Raiders
the
fans there.
Raiders have a bigger history there. The Raiders have won a championship there. Raiders have played in Oakland, LA, Oakland twice. They've played in LA. Now they play in Vegas. Raiders have a great following.
Oh, they do. They have one of the better followings up there with the Cowboys, Packers, Niners.
Yeah, my uncle Randy last season sent me a video from his tailgate in MetLife Stadium when they played the Giants.
Huh.
Raiders lost the game, but they were definitely hanging in the tailgate, and they were very well represented.
Yeah, they really are. And see it heavily here in San Antonio too. And it, but I agree with you, man. This game has the making of Derek Carr to come out there. Look, Josh Jacobs, you had your game last week. It's my turn this week.
That's yeah, and I could see that this could be the signature game that he has, and with the Charger injuries, it is the right game for that to happen. Going to his buddy Devontae Adams. If there was ever a time, this is the time, because you already know they're living together, they're rooming
They're
together,
rooming together.
and
I agree
they're
with
also
you.
approaching the final month of their tenure together.
They got to look for a new apartment because they have to vacate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I think the Raiders will pull this one off. I'm going overtime. Chargers will receive the ball. They will go have a three and out, and then they're going to rely on their big leg and Carlson to come out victorious, 33-30. So almost similar score to you.
Or maybe this week, Josh McDaniels chooses not to kick when he should, but they'll still win
Yeah.
because I think the allure of Josh McDaniels is that lately it looks like his team could win despite him.
So as far as the true, as far as the other games go, the Seahawks Rams game, the Rams they're just hurting more. They're Aaron Donald's going to miss his first game.
They have nothing to play for.
They have nothing, absolutely nothing. Matt Stafford, he
They have
is
nothing to lose for.
likely
They have nothing to win for. They
they.
have nothing to lose for.
I know that's the best part about watching this is they can't say, "All right, guys, if we lose out, we can end up with a top 10 pick."
Yeah,
They're
because they already got rid of all that.
yeah, they're talking about we'll end up with like the next pick in the draft, guys. We got this.
The second,
Um,
the second that the calendar year starts, next calendar year, if I'm them, I am trading every valuable asset you have.
yeah, because
Even
Sean
Cooper,
McVay is
even Cooper
close.
Cup. Yeah,
Yeah,
McVay might walk away and then maybe 5, 6 years come back. He's
come
still so
back.
young, but I think he's getting to that point where he's a little burned.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're a very successful man at that age. You know.
Look at John Madden, the late great John Madden. He left the game very young, never came back at that capacity.
Hmm.
There are other coaches too. Dick Vermeil was another guy that left and came back
Yeah, that's a good point.
years later. I mean, hell, even Joe Gibbs left and came back years later. So it definitely happens. Bill Parcells was never able to stay away too long. You could talk about all kinds of different coaches. Pete Carroll, he's the guy he's coaching against. He's on his third team, but what's rare about Carroll is that he failed with the Jets and Patriots. It's very rare that a guy who fails twice gets a third shot in the NFL.
Well, when your third shot is coming off of
What he did in
having,
college.
yeah, having that USC team, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
then obviously you're going to get that one last chance. And it's just crazy that how it couldn't work out over on the East Coast, but he goes to the West Coast and Seattle, a city
Yeah,
that suits him better, and he has the success he's had,
it was where he was definitely supposed to be. No
Yeah,
question
definitely.
about it. It's where he was supposed to be.
But as far as your other games go, Falcons Steelers, I had the Falcons winning that one, even though the Steelers defense has been playing some very good football. Raven, yeah, Ravens will beat the Broncos. Lions, Jaguars, Seahawks. We already spoke on that one. I actually think the Seahawks will win 31-17. But all in all, oh, the one I disagree with, the Saints. I believe victorious this week.
I mean, it's possible. I can't. Tampa's got to win a game that sort of matters sooner or later. We'll see. But like I said, the one theme amongst everybody on this list, maybe with the exception of the Seattle Seahawks, is that there is just so much mediocrity. And with mediocrity, it's hard to pick and hard to project what you're going to see other than what we think we both know, which is you're going to see a lot of mediocrity. With mediocrity comes parity.
Yeah.
And with parity comes parody, because that shit's kind of funny sometimes. But
so all right, I have a question for you, Richie.
Yeah.
You're gonna remove your fan hat.
Uh-huh.
All right. So obviously we already hit on the NFC East. We're talking about the NFC East possibly getting 4 teams in the playoffs. I've alluded to the Giants going one way, the Commanders going another way. The Giants have the hardest schedule to finish off the year, and the Commanders have the 3rd hardest schedule. How important do you think this week's game is when you take that into consideration and how both teams are playing, that you think that the Giants would be able to bounce back off of that?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive because the Commanders basically have a bye in between this game. So they basically play us for 8 straight quarters for their season. I think they end up splitting more than likely, but I think the Giants take the first one. And the reason why this particular one is so huge, it would give the Commanders a 6th loss, which would give the Giants a 2-game separation from them. And even should the Commanders win the rematch, and even should the Giants lose to Philly, the Commanders still have to play a more potent Cleveland team with Deshaun Watson, as well as your Dallas Cowboys. And when I think about that, I say to myself, you know what? I do think the Giants could outlast them and sneak this. I think the Giants are going to be the 7th seed. I think Seattle, favorable schedule, will still sneak in. I think the Commanders are going to pay for some of those losses with Carson Wentz. They're hitting a hot point. They've hit a hot point, but that I don't necessarily think that means that they're going to finish at that same point. But this is going to be a huge game.
So
I like the Giants coming home, and I also like the fact that the Giants are going to have a week and a half going into this to get ready for this. I think that makes a big difference here.
So let me ask you another important question, because we saw how you guys started off the year. One of the best records in the NFL. I mean, week in and week out, we're having comebacks or just playing incredible defense, finding a way to win, something that this team seems to be lacking right now. And if it happens again this week, the Giants now fall possibly out of the playoff picture altogether.
Well, yeah. This is a loss here could be devastating, but truth be told, I still think that team that started 6-1, they're still very much that team. They did have a lead in Dallas against a much more talented Cowboys team. The Lion game, you want to just throw that away. That was a horrible Sunday. But when I look at the injuries that they have dealt with to some of these key positions over the course of the past month, knowing that we're getting some of these guys back, I think the Giants are going to have enough to power the ship and win this game. And I also think that you can't put a price on, the message in the locker room and believing in yourselves. And I do think that one thing that this Giant team does is very much so believe in themselves. Because when you look at the lack of talent, but every game with the exception of Detroit was decided by one score, I think it speaks a lot to that this team is constantly in close games and has won a lot more of them. There's something to say to that.
So now let's just say it does go south for this team. Now, how would you feel about Daniel Jones moving forward if this team went from a 6-1 team to a currently 7-4 team to say finishing off the year 8-9?
I still think, given the fact that next year is not the year to get a quarterback, considering where we're going to be drafting, and I also think considering that they have literally lost every asset they have at wide receiver, that is. I think this is all stuff that you got to take home, and this is all stuff that you got to rationalize when evaluating Daniel Jones. The way I look at it is The turnovers have been down in a big way. And even going back to last year when we had that putrid season, the New York media and fans alike have been very tough on Daniel Jones. But going back to last year, one thing that I know, or even an emergency situation where we lost he and Tyrod Taylor. When Daniel Jones plays, the Giants have the best chance to win. And when Daniel Jones doesn't play, the Giants normally don't win. That's what I think about Daniel Jones right now. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's the franchise. I'll go as far as saying this. I think the sweet spot for a Barkley deal is probably getting that fourth year. I was on a trading card show prior to being here on Instagram Live, diehard Giant fan, and he suggested 4 years over $40 million for Saquon. Definitely would be a hometown discount, but given the fact that the running back market is not going to be as big as it is not going to, it's more varied. His value is going to be a little more down. I think he takes the hometown discount. I think Daniel Jones gets franchised, and I think that's how they move forward. And as Odell's meeting gets closer, he will be in the facility tomorrow, possibly even Friday. The more I look at it and taking the fan hat off, it just doesn't make the most sense for a team that is still in transition and still rebuilding to invest in a 30-year-old wide receiver. The closer it gets, it just doesn't make sense.
And that's one of the things I kept hitting on, that the future of this team when it comes to the quarterback position, there's not enough stability in it right now. He wants that deal he wants his final deal. That's what he wants. And would he be willing to take a deal maybe for more money? He would come to New York. But are you telling me it's going to be Daniel Jones? Are you telling me it's going to be a rookie that was drafted in the second round, or someone that you guys traded up for to get? There's too much. And then that's why I talked about with Dallas, how their window is right now. And they're proving that, because last year they were a 12-5 team, early exit in the wild card to the 49ers. We move forward to this year, and here they are sitting at 8-3 and being talked about as possibly the best team. And their windows right now. So that's why an OBJ makes complete sense, because Michael Gallup he has improved, he just is not your number two. And CeeDee Lamb has had his good games. He's played more like a number one, but we're still missing that guy that can catch the ball in a tough situation.
Zappy, you hear me, bud?
You got me?
You're back now.
I don't know what was the last thing you heard me say, but I
basically think CeeDee Lamb catching ball, tough situation.
Oh yeah, so an LBJ is that receiver that we know that can go over the middle, catch a ball, take a hit, make a move, and go. CeeDee Lamb, he's good, but he's proven it to me more as of late, but not yet. So it just makes more sense that Dallas invests that big contract into a free agent receiver like him. 20 million to 22 is not a lot. As far as the Giants go, I think if you were to want to get him home for his legacy purposes, it would take more along the lines of 24 to 25. Because if you want me to come to a city where there's instability at the quarterback position, you have to pay me a little more, And, as far as the Giants, that's why I was asking, how would you feel if they said, all right, you know what? Time to ship it in. We finished with 8 wins. We're going to have to make a move for a quarterback, sign Daniel for 2 years. That's a lot. And as far as Saquon goes, the running back market seems to be working for the teams that invest time in the running game all the time. It did come back and bite Dallas in the butt by
looking at who these free agents are going to be. I actually think that it favors the Giants in that negotiation process with Saquon, and I do think that Saquon is willing to take the hometown discount for the stability of staying with the Giants. So, yeah, Saquon, I feel rather confident that he's back. Daniel Jones, at least 2 years more. He's our guy.
I think Saquon does a 2-year deal as well.
That I don't see.
Because Oh yeah, I guess yeah. I don't see it because the last couple of years he's been hurt and he's got to get stability. But at the same time, why not bet on yourself to have a blow up year? And I know people say don't ever bet on yourself because it doesn't always pay out. Dalton Schultz, for example, who's another one that bet on himself, and I mean, Le'Veon Bell, who was a complete.
Saquon had the year that's going to get him the 4-year deal, and he's let me see, 25, 26. He'll be 28 when that deal's over. Do it, Giants. 4 years for Saquon. Jones at minimum has earned the franchise tag, or you can figure out some kind of short-term extension.
I don't think he gets the franchise tag with the amount of money that is dedicated to the quarterback position, especially the top 5 contracts. And then you take into consideration that Lamar might get paid this offseason and a couple other quarterbacks, that you're not giving Daniel Jones 40-something million, for 1 year. You're just not doing it.
No, but I have to look more into it. But I see, because of his draft position.
No, the franchise tag, the way it pays out, it's the average of the top 5 at that position.
So if you're franchise tagging, okay, I see what you're saying. No, there's an extension coming, not a tag. But Jones will be back. Jones will be back for, in my opinion, the next 2 seasons at minimum.
And that's what I think as well. I think we've talked about this many times where we think Daniel will come back on a 2-3 year deal, be the bridge quarterback to the guy, which I thought you would have drafted this draft. But as you alluded to, you guys have won some games, so now you're out of it. Not out of it, but your guy's going to be in position where if you have a team that is there, then you can draft the quarterback in the first round still, kind of a reach, and build them for 2 years.
Quite frankly, this is the first year that he's with this coaching staff. And when you look at everything that's not there and him being – I really don't think you could ask much more of him this year. I really don't.
You could. I mean, this guy has made a complete turnaround from being the turnover king to one of the best at protecting the ball. You can't make that. I think 2 years is perfect. And get him a receiver. Get him that receiver in the first round.
To be honest with you, I would go corner first round, receiver second, but we'll see how that plays out. Until next time, I am Richie. He is Zappy. I am very much looking forward to Week 13. In my opinion, for my team, I think this will decide the fate of playoffs or not. Giants win here. It's a 2-game lead over Washington, and it changes the trajectory of how the final month goes. A loss could be crippling, and I will admit that. Until next time, we are out.